Mario Batali, admitted serial sexual harasser, yearns for redemption, as in he wants it all back.
Today we're cooking for Bob from Boston. First ingredient, duck. I've chosen duck breast, magret. Next up, lentils. I like the tiny ones from Umbria. Next up, bacon. There are many options for bacon. What's your favorite?
I like the double smoked.
Double smoked, please, about a half a pound. Porcine delight, thank you.
So, the New York Times is reporting Batali is busy finding ways to atone for allegedly groping, kissing, and propositioning at least 10 women. He told the Times, quote, he's still figuring out stuff, but he has ideas. One idea is to create a new company and to put a woman in charge. His second idea is to become Angelina Jolie with a chef's hat. He plans to visit Rwanda and Greece next month to work at refugee camps, or he'll just move to Italy's Amalfi Coast for a while. But that last option would likely be a mistake. As a leadership expert told Forbes magazine, you may ask for forgiveness, but you need to make amends. How is he doing that? So, Opinion Nation, I will ask you. Can sexual harassers redeem themselves? Tweet me at Carol HLN or comment on my Facebook page, facebook.com/CarolCNN, and join in the conversation with my guests. Evan Nierman is the founder of crisis management PR firm Red Banyan, and Lorraine Ali is a media critic with the Los Angeles Times. Lorraine, I will start with you. Mario Batali, 10 women accused of improper behavior, as in groping, kissing, worse.
Right.
And, I mean, is there redemption for someone who's been accused by 10 women of improper conduct?
I love the image that you brought up of Angelina Jolie and the chef's hat, you know, going to Rwanda with the refugees. Redemption, there has to be a path to redemption. But for these guys who have been in the power seat, who've been calling the shots, they don't get to call how that happens. And I think, you know, there's many steps that have to happen before that. But yes, we do need a path to redemption. You cannot move forward without forgiveness. But forgiveness does also not mean total solution of accountability. And in his case, I think there's a lot more steps that have to happen before, okay, everything's
he's
great.
one of the few guys that fully admitted it and then voluntarily stepped down.
I think there's a difference, though, between fully admitting it and actually some deeper understanding and coming out of, look, I'm really sorry, but there's been a problem with that, right?
Right.
These guys have had to sort of sink into the background and kind of get out of the spotlight because there's been this pitch fever about it. So, you know, it's a tricky situation.
It sure is. So, Evan, are any of Mario Batali's ideas valid?
Well, look, let me just say at the start that there's never really ever an excuse for the kinds of things that he's been accused of doing. And for someone to really go down the road to redemption, you have to demonstrate that you've actually learned. People don't want to see PR moves. They don't want to see behavior that they feel that you're doing just to get yourself back into the good graces. I think Batali was right to admit it quickly. He was right also to step away from his businesses, which is something that a number of other prominent people who've been accused as part of the Me Too have not done. So I think he's calculating, I think he's weighing his options, and it sounds like he's trying to take a smart and strategic approach to figure out when he's going to attempt his big comeback.
Okay, I just want to read something that Gretchen Carlson sent my way. She's a great friend and a fabulous woman, quite frankly. And she asks this question: what about hiring back all of the women who've lost their jobs simply for having the courage to come forward? Right? So when you think of it that way, the redemption thing seems a little silly.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, you know, think of all the men, think of all the great talent we've lost because of this, in terms of the men that have gone down because of this. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Think of the women who never even got the chance to get up to that point because they were harassed out of the workplace. So, right. I mean, there is that conversation of, like, before we even start talking about can these men have their careers back, what about all the women who, you know, need to fight their way back after this?
So, Evan, why doesn't Mario Batali think about that? All of those 10 women who have accused him of sexual harassment, why not approach them and help them along in their career paths?
That would be a great move. Perhaps he should hire you as his crisis PR consultant, because I like that. Look, I think the best thing about the Me Too movement is it has thrown open the doors on behavior that many people, myself included, did not really fully understand was so pervasive in this day and age. It's behavior degrading to women, inappropriate, assault, and things that we believed happened perhaps in the 50s, but not in this modern age. I think this is, a lot of people ask, is this going to be a short-term change? No, I believe this is a sea change. I think it's something that changes the American workforce and changes it for the better.
I do hope you're right. I wanted to bring up Senator Al Franken because, of course, he resigned amidst his own, sex scandal, I would suppose you'd say. But he's hanging in there, and I think that even some feminists have said there is redemption for Al Franken. So what makes him different than Mario Batali, than Bill O'Reilly, than Harvey Weinstein? What's different about Al Franken?
There are different levels of the egregiousness, say, of whatever that sexual misconduct was. And when you're talking about a difference between what Al Franken did as opposed to the kind of serial behavior that allegedly, we see with many other men, that's one. There's different levels to it. Number two, initially when this first came down, Al Franken reacted in the right way. He came out, he said he was sorry for it, and he stepped back.
I don't think he ever really said he was sorry for it, though.
Really?
I don't remember Al Franken, really ever being wholly apologetic for what happened. But he did step down. He did resign.
Yeah, well, that's a trickier one, I think, because of the political implications, right? Because we have such a division right now, and there can be attacking on any level. So I feel like he actually did apologize and step back.
Now, see, that's interesting, though. There's a perception there that he did the right thing. And, Evan, why do you think that is? Why is there that perception there about Al Franken that's not there with Mario Batali?
Well, one thing that's important to consider is, and I agree with Lorraine completely, there are different gradations, there are different levels of offense. And the things that Al Franken was accused of and apologized for don't even come close to being as egregious as some of the other horrific things that others have done. I think he might have a better chance at recovering his political career and moving forward, in part because he works in politics. We're used to rough and tumble scandals on a daily basis. Certainly in this modern era, it seems like there's a new, fresh one on the TV every single day that we're watching on headline news. So at the end of the day, politicians have probably a bigger pass than some of the people in other positions. Take newscasters, for instance. I think you're in a position where you interview people of power, you have an awesome responsibility to hold them accountable, to give them tough questions, and that comes with a certain amount of respect and dignity that's afforded to the interviewer. So then when you end up with sexual misconduct allegations being directed against folks in the news media, I think it's much, much harder for them to ever attempt to come back or ever achieve it, because there's such a disconnect between the person we thought we knew and saw on camera and the things they were doing perhaps in their private lives.
Yeah, maybe we expect our politicians to be... That's so awful. But I get where you're going with that. I have to end it there, but what a great conversation. Evan Nierman, Lorraine Alley, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.